Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're actually going to try and mark out where we're going to make the cut in the transmission tunnel. So on the R154 transmission for the JZX110 in particular, it's a little bit different on the JZX100 gearbox, so keep that in mind if you're going to be doing a 100 gearbox in a 110. But in the 110 gearbox that's made for this car, it has a little breather pipe that sits on the remote shift part of the gearbox, and that's the main part that fouls on the automatic transmission tunnel. So this is the stock cutout for the shifter, for the automatic shifter. So that breather pipe on the gearbox sits roughly between these two holes. So it's roughly around this, where it's actually got a number there. Mine says 82. I'm not sure if that's the same number across all cars, but mine says 82, and that's the very center of the shifter hole. So what I've done is just above the 82, I've put a small mark where I'm going to start drilling. And for me, what I'm going to do is a little bit different to what other people seem to do in Japan. A lot of people cut basically following the shifter lines all the way up to this bolt here and cut all the way across and take that entire chunk out. So some people don't go the full width, they go a little bit further in, but they do the same thing. They go all the way up and cut across. But the main part that fouls is really that section there. My cut's going to be a little bit different because I want to keep it a little bit neater. What I'll do is make a hole here, initially start with a small drill bit. So basically pre-drill it, and then I'll be using a Christmas tree bit, one of these guys. So this one I believe is a 30mm bit, and I'm going to make basically a 30mm hole right there. That should basically cover that breather pipe a little bit up, probably 10 or 15mm higher than it needs to, so it gives it a little bit of space. And once I've got that hole, I'm actually going to try and follow I'm actually going to try and pull a straight line across to meet the edges of that cut that I'll make. So once that is done, I'm going to put a little bit of primer paint and possibly even put a little bit of base coat on there, and then cover it with a bit of pinch weld, which is like a rubber seal that goes all the way around just to stop it from rusting. That rubber seal will also give me a little bit of height to basically get the same height as the breather that's going to come out from the gearbox. And then I'll be covering the entire thing with a rubber sheet basically for like a water protection, with just a cutout for where the shifter stick will come up. That's the plan anyway. So for tonight I'm making that hole and I'll be marking this out. If I do get a chance, I will make that cut. There's a couple of ways I can make that cut. I can either use a Dremel, grinder, or some people have even suggested using a jigsaw with a metal blade. I'm not sure how straight that one will be, so I'll probably end up using the grinder. Just have to make sure I cover the area nicely so that no small bits of metal go flying everywhere. It is a little bit dangerous. You can end up setting your carpet on fire if you're not careful. Okay, so I've got that hole cut out now. That's 30mm diameter. Remember that when you're cutting this out, if you're using Christmas tree bit or otherwise, make sure you have a box underneath to catch all of the metal shavings that come off. It has gone everywhere as well, so I'm just going to get a little hand vac and just collect all that up. The last thing you want is to be working on it from underneath and get little metal shards falling onto your face. So I'll do that now, and then I'll start marking out where this needs to be cut out. Okay, so using some painter's tape, I've marked out basically the edges of where I need to cut. I won't get a perfect cut on these corners just because it's going to be hard for the grinder's blade to actually get in the right position, so it's going to be a little bit sharp. But what I'll do is use the Dremel and basically sand it back a little bit so it's not so sharp. So what I'll do now is I'm going to get some cloth and basically sort of block off this area so that if there's any sparks or metal bits flying around, it sort of stays contained in here. So I'll go and do that, and then we'll get the grinder out. Okay, slight change of plans. I'm going to actually be using the Dremel, so it's a little bit easier for me to cut. It's just I don't want sparks to be flying everywhere. So the Dremel's a little bit easier. It runs at lower speed. There's less metal flying around. So what I've done is I've actually put some little clots around the hole just to stop any small metal bits flying around and getting into crevices and stuff under the carpet. So yeah, I've got a Dremel 1.5 inch cutting blade, and it's a good thing I checked because that's actually a plastic one. So I'll just be right back. I'll change that to a metal blade. So I'm about halfway done through the first cut. Man, it takes forever. I actually did swap over to the Dremel at one point, but again, it was just too damn awkward, and there were sparks flying all over the car, so it wasn't very safe. I'll continue with this method. It's a little bit more tedious, but we'll get there. Okay, so one side's done. Now I'm going to move to the other side and get that finished off. It's taking quite a long time, so I'm watching some Adam LZ while I do this. But yeah, let's get back to it. Okay, so that took quite a long time, but I finally got it. I think I've been working on that cut for an hour now. I just need to get the sanding bit and basically tidy up these edges a little bit, and then I'll be ready for some primer. Now I don't know if I've got any primer on me tonight, so I might have to get some tomorrow after work, do the primer, possibly even get the pinch weld seal, and then that part should be ready for now. I'll finish that off once I actually have the trim piece, so I can line up the FRP cover, do any trims on the cover that I need to. So long as this was cut, I'll be able to get the gearbox in and mounted, and I can work on finishing this off afterwards. Okay, so that's the finished product for tonight. There's minor imperfections, especially on the right hand side. It was just a little bit harder to cut on that angle. Once I grab some primer tomorrow and put some pinch weld on there, I'll show you guys again what it looks like. But I think that's pretty much it. That's all you need to cut. And yeah, I'll continue this part once we've got the gearbox in and I've got the other materials that I want to put here. So I actually ended up doing a metal primer on it tonight, and once that dries off tomorrow morning, I'll do the basically I've got a metal shield coat, which is like a final coat that should also protect it from rust and things like that. So I'll put that on tomorrow and then finish this video off then.